Ever feel like you're playing a real-life video game, but the other players are deliberately trying to mess with you? What if I told you there's a cheat code, not to change their behavior, because, let's face it, you can't, but a cheat code to change your reaction? Hey, Stoic Squad, Sunny Stoic Studio, and welcome back to the channel where we tackle life's toughest challenges with ancient wisdom. Today, we're diving into a topic everyone grapples with, staying unbothered, even when it feels like the whole world is conspiring to irritate you. I'm going to give you 3 practical psychological tricks rooted in Stoicism that will equip you to handle difficult people and maintain your inner peace. Think of it as building an emotional force field. So, if you're ready to learn how to deflect negativity and reclaim your emotional freedom, hit that like button, subscribe for more Stoic insights, and let's get you unbothered. No more wasting time. Let's dive right in. Trick number 1, the dichotomy of control. This is the cornerstone, the foundation upon which everything else is built. It's all about understanding what's within your power and what isn't. Too often we waste precious energy fretting over things we simply can't influence. The weather, traffic, other people's opinions, the past. But Stoicism teaches us that true freedom comes from focusing on the one thing we can control, our own actions, judgments, and attitudes. Think about it. Someone cuts you off in traffic. You can't control their driving, but you can control your reaction. You can choose to honk, get angry, and let it ruin your mood, or you can take a deep breath. Remind yourself that getting upset won't change the situation, and choose to respond with calm and reason. The power is always yours. Actionable step. Think of a situation that regularly bothers you. Is it a coworker's negativity? A family member's nagging? Now ask yourself honestly, can you control the situation itself, or just your reaction? Write it down. Visualizing this helps immensely in taking the first step. Let me share a brief personal story. A few years ago, I was constantly frustrated by a colleague who was consistently late for meetings and unprepared. I found myself getting increasingly angry and resentful. But then I remembered the dichotomy of control. I couldn't force him to be on time, but I could control my reaction. I decided to focus on preparing myself as thoroughly as possible and managing my own time effectively. Surprisingly, my frustration lessened, and I was able to approach the situation with more clarity and patience. Once you truly accept what you can control, you free up so much mental space for what you can influence, and that mental space is fertile ground for cultivating inner peace. Trick number 2, cognitive distancing. It sounds complicated, but it's actually quite simple. It's about recognizing that your thoughts are not always facts. They're just thoughts, mental events that pass through your mind. The key is to observe them rather than becoming completely absorbed by them. Imagine you're sitting by a riverbank, watching leaves float by on the current. Each leaf represents a thought. You notice the leaf, observe its shape and color, but you don't jump into the river and try to grab it. You simply let it pass. That's cognitive distancing in action. When someone says something hurtful or irritating, your immediate reaction might be a flood of negative thoughts. They're so disrespectful. They always do this. I can't stand them. But these thoughts are not necessarily true. They're just your interpretation of the situation, colored by your own biases and emotions. Actionable step. When you feel triggered, pause for a moment and say to yourself, I'm having a thought that, e.g., I'm having a thought that this person is deliberately trying to annoy me. This simple act of labeling creates distance, reminding you that you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. Try this exercise right now. Think of a recent situation where you felt bothered by someone. What were the negative thoughts that went through your head? Now, practice labeling those thoughts. See if that simple act changes your emotional intensity. You might even visualize your thoughts as passing clouds in the sky or as words on a movie screen that you can simply turn off. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Trick number 3, negative visualization. Now, before you click away thinking this is about being a pessimist, hear me out. Negative visualization, or premeditatio malorum as the Stoics called it, is not about dwelling on the negative. It's about preparing for it. It's about consciously contemplating potential misfortunes, not to invite them, but to diminish their power over you when they inevitably arrive. Think of it as an emotional vaccine. By exposing yourself to small doses of potential hardship, you build resilience and immunity to its sting. How does this apply to difficult people? Let's say you have a colleague who constantly criticizes your work. Instead of just dreading the next encounter, take some time to visualize it. What's the worst that could happen? They might publicly disparage your ideas, undermine your credibility, or even try to sabotage your project. Now, consider how you would cope with each of those scenarios. How would you respond with poise and professionalism? What steps could you take to mitigate the damage? By mentally rehearsing these strategies, you're not only reducing your fear of the situation, but also empowering yourself to handle it effectively if it actually occurs. Actionable step. Write down a specific fear you have related to a difficult person in your life. Now, brainstorm at least 3 concrete solutions you could implement if that fear were to materialize. I remember once facing a particularly challenging presentation to a room full of skeptical investors. I knew there was a high probability of facing tough questions and potentially hostile criticism. Instead of letting anxiety paralyze me, I used negative visualization. I imagined every possible challenge, technical glitches, aggressive questioning, even outright rejection. Then I systematically prepared my responses and developed backup plans. When the actual presentation came, I was surprisingly calm and confident. I had already faced the worst in my mind, so the reality felt manageable, even empowering. Preparing for the worst paradoxically helps you appreciate the present. When you've contemplated the possibility of loss, you become more grateful for what you have. Trick number 4, the Stoic pause. The next time someone tries to push your buttons, take a deep breath and pause before reacting. This simple act of delay allows you to regain control and choose your response rather than being hijacked by emotion. Actionable step. Practice pausing for 3 seconds before responding to any situation that triggers you. Notice how this small delay shifts your perspective. These are just the first few psychological tricks for staying unbothered. If you found them helpful, let me know in the comments, and stay tuned for part 2, where we'll explore more Stoic strategies for emotional resilience. Until next time, remember, you control your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Stay resilient, stay stoic, and I'll see you in the next one.